And welcome to the Tom Myers versus the rest of the world New Hampshire primary special. Well, New Hampshire voters participated in their primary, which of course saw Donald Trump win over Nikki Haley. It's a shame for Haley because she's the type of person who in school would study and do all of the assignments, while Trump is the kid who would bring porn and show everyone while it was hidden in his textbook. Trump is all but saying that Republicans shouldn't vote for Nikki Haley because she's a woman. In fact, his campaign slogan is really close to being, "I am not woman, hear me shit myself." In the exit polling for New Hampshire, 8% of the GOP primary voters identified as Democrats. I'm not sure I could cross over to influence a Republican primary. Both Nikki Haley and Donald Trump are basically conservatives. We can't forget that for Democrats, choosing between Haley and Trump is, for the rest of us, choosing whether we want to have hard stools that we really have to strain to pass, or whether we want Crohn's disease.
Oh my God.
Trump supporters are complaining that Democrats and unaffiliated voters are voting in their primary. They're insulting them, which is quite ironic because you want them voting for your candidate when it comes to the general election. You want to do everything you can appeal to non-Republicans. For example, you may not like your girlfriend's parents, but you have to be nice to them, so your conscience will let you get to third base with their daughter. During the course of the campaign, Donald Trump confused Nikki Haley with Nancy Pelosi when talking about January 6th. Because of that instance, among others, there has been speculation of a serious cognitive decline in Trump, which I find shocking that anyone's been able to tell the difference. Joe Biden won the Democratic primary in a write-in campaign with no campaigning and his name not even on the ballot. Even with all that stuff, Biden having a larger margin of victory than Trump is a bit like the tortoise and the hare story, except Trump is neither the tortoise nor the hare, but a greased pig with rabies.
Oh.
Dean Phillips and Marianne Williamson, bless them, campaigned in New Hampshire despite the fact that no delegates will be awarded because New Hampshire scheduled its primary before the Democratic National Committee rules said they could. Basically, they're like Alex Murdoch campaigning for a world's greatest dad t-shirt. In his efforts to campaign for Donald Trump, Rudy Giuliani was seen working as a barista and serving coffee to supporters. Ostensibly, that's what he was doing. He was actually earning money to pay off his Shea Ross Ruby Freeman settlement. And on that note, on with the show. Please join me in welcoming Jeff Hysen, Michele Wojciechowski, and Polite Kitty.
Hey, Tom.
Hey, Tom.
Welcome back. So what did we all think of the New Hampshire results?
One thing you see there is the way Trump, I'm sorry to use that word, was anointed.
If only that was the most offensive thing that was said on this podcast.
Was anointed by the RNC as the presumptive victor, and they stopped their plan, but they were about to say it's over, and they were criticized, and for some reason they said, oh, we're not going to do that. But their plan was, after New Hampshire, was to give Trump the nomination and make the rest of the primaries moot, which is, shockingly for the Republicans, not how democracy works.
Does it really make you shocked, though? Because I'm not.
I'm being facetious.
I just feel like they're thinking, we're not going to waste any more time on this crap. Everybody knows what's going to happen. Let's just put... I just can't believe he's going to be the nominee again. I can't believe. I go back to the days of Mitt Romney and John McCain and think, wow, we didn't know how good we had it. I mean, seriously.
A guy who talked about binders full of women and who generated memes saying he wanted to kill Big Bird was who knew that would be the bright spot of this country.
Yeah.
That was the apex of the Republican Party.
We were talking about that because I guess I'm on the younger side, and my first election, presidential election that I got to vote in, was the second George Bush.
That was mine as well. Yeah, actually, my first
Yeah.
election was the 2002 Maryland gubernatorial election. So, like, I voted for Kathleen Kennedy Townsend. So, if I were able to do that, then I'd have a very, I would have a very, that's a very low threshold for me.
Yeah, it's been downhill ever since.
But what you raise an interesting point, Tom, that about the cognitive issues with Trump, and yet all Republicans do is say Joe's old. Joe's old. He doesn't make
right?
He doesn't make mistakes like that. Their guy confused, and that's quite a mistake. And his campaign tried to explain it by saying that Haley is. We're trying to show that Haley is just as liberal as Pelosi. No, you weren't. It was one broad in his view, and one broad's another broad.
Because it's perfectly reasonable to confuse someone from San Francisco with someone from South Carolina. It's perfectly reasonable.
They're both women. What's the difference?
I was gonna say they're both brunettes.
Yeah.
Not as tight.
Joining us tonight to go ahead and discuss further the impact of the results of the New Hampshire primary, please join me in welcoming New Hampshire's own radio show host, podcaster, and our boss at ipmNation.com, Matt Connarton.
Woo!
Thank you. Thank you. I like I was saying off air, Tom, I feel like this has been years in the making, this moment. Wonderful to be here.
I've been executive producer for 80 plus episodes. Finally, I get my shot on the mic. I noticed some things about the primary results. The media was talking about this is a big win for Trump, but it really wasn't that big. Just looking at the results as they were posted today as we're recording this, Trump only beat Haley by 9 points. This 54-43. But with his write-in campaign and doing absolutely nothing, Biden beat Dean Phillips by 45 points, 65-20. Write-in votes that weren't Biden got 7%, and Marianne Williamson, bless her, picked up 4% of the vote. So more people chose to write in someone other than the 20-some people on the ballot who weren't Biden or Marianne Williamson. And Marianne Williamson's she's pretty much near like the bottom of the pack in that regard. But what's your takeaway? I mean, you live in New Hampshire. You see what's going on up there. You're as close as we're ever going to get to a New Hampshire correspondent on this show. So what's your takeaway from the results?
Well, first of all, I'll just say for the record, I full disclosure, I voted for Marianne Williamson really out of selfishness and loyalty. She was a guest on my show. She joined us live in studio and was very generous with her time. So that's how I decide who to vote for. If you pay attention to me, I'll vote for you. But no priorities, I'm an American, a little narcissistic. But I did vote for her. I was the only thing truly interesting. I mean, obviously, I knew Trump was going to win. I didn't know by how much. New Hampshire, we have a little bit of an independent spirit, although, God, there are Trump signs everywhere, which is unfortunate. But, but no surprise in that he won. It was just a matter of, could Nikki Haley kind of pierce his invincibility and inevitability just a tiny bit. In the end, it's not going to matter. I always refer to him as the presumptive nominee because it's going to be him. The only thing that was a little unpredictable was what was going to happen with Biden, because obviously not only was he on the ballot, but I was on another show and we were talking about this right before the primary, and something occurred to me that hadn't occurred to me before. I said, wait a minute, people who are voting who aren't really paying a lot of attention, casual voters who maybe they're too busy, too distracted with life to really pay attention, who are taking a Democrat ballot, they're going to be confused. If they haven't been following what's going on, they're going to look at that ballot and say, wait a minute, Biden's not even on the ballot. What's going on here? Am I supposed to write him in? How does this work? I thought there was going to be mass confusion over that, but there wasn't. And I guess, we're pretty well informed here. So I figured he'd win. I was angry with him, though, and I've been angry with the DNC as a proud New Hampshire resident in terms of them trying to take our first in the nation primary away. Again, maybe I'm a little selfish and narcissistic, but to paraphrase Charlton Heston, I always say you'll take our New Hampshire first in the nation primary from my cold dead hands, or however that went. I guess you could say that about guns too, because New Hampshire were armed to the teeth. But yeah, I mean, but you know what's sad too at the same time is just knowing that in the end it doesn't matter. I mean, it's interesting, and I like the New Hampshire primary because it's the one time every 4 years that the rest of the country kind of says, "Oh, New Hampshire, that exists." But but in the end, it's like no matter what happens, it's gonna be Biden versus Trump. The rematch America doesn't want, and yet is absolutely determined we're gonna have.
I know.
In the end, it doesn't really, none of it matters. That's what it's going to be.
Another thing that struck me was I had a little more hope when I saw some of the exit polls coming out of New Hampshire, where it was less of the Republican voting electorate believed that Biden was illegitimately in office, as opposed to Iowa. But then when you dig deep down, who was mostly voting and giving that opinion? It was independents and Democrats. Republicans voting in a Republican primary were the minority in that instance. So I mean, really, are Republicans in New Hampshire really different than Iowa?
I think so. I mean, there's a lot I could say about that, but then my Northeastern elitism will come spilling out of me. But I do think we're yeah, I'll just say it. I think we're smarter. I think we're better than Iowa in every measurable way, quite frankly. And but by the way, one of the people who appears on my show regularly is from Iowa, so hopefully he'll see this.
But at least you have
used
people
to
voting.
appear on your show regularly.
Yes.
We'll piss off all 2 of our listeners from Iowa. We can take them.
They're going to have a caucus, Tom, and vote against this podcast.
That's right.
Tell them to get in line. All right, that's... During his election night speech, Trump seemed so distracted by Nikki Haley's remarks. In fact, my cat has better impulse control when I open a can of cat food. Here's an awkward excerpt of his meandering on election night.
And then we do go to South Carolina, where we've done really well, where I've done well. We have a great governor and lieutenant governor and great everything, because almost every one of them have endorsed me. 2 great senators, which is hard. I mean, did you ever think that she actually appointed you, Tim? And think of it, appointed, and you're the senator of his state, and she endorsed me. You must really hate her. No, it's a shame. It's a shame. Uh-oh.
I just love you.
No, that's why he's a great politician. That's why he's a great politician.
I mean, Trump remarked that Tim Scott had just gotten engaged. Like, was it? Maybe it was to him.
What did he say? When Scott came up behind him, did he forget who Scott was?
Might have thought.
Who knows, Jeff? We're all in hell.
Yeah, congratulations to Tim Scott on his totally authentic engagement.
The ring is going to be small with the $83 million payout he owns.
$83 million to start with.
I love how he said in Scott's press release for his engagement, he said how he's a shy guy. And of course, there was a photographer on the beach to take the picture that they disseminated with the press release for his engagement, but he's shy.
Mm-hmm.
Also, like, in terms of, like, if Trump was a comic, like, that would be the worst crowd work effort I've ever seen.
He's definitely the person who's like, "Where are you from? Seattle? That's nice. Thanks."
Where's my African American? Is my African American here?
Yeah.
Oh, there he is.
Give
Oh,
it
he's
up for the
behind me.
troops.
It's Tim Scott. Wow.
Give it up for the
Yeah.
troops,
Who
even
knew?
though I think they're losers.
Hey, make sure we put all the people of color behind me so
I
everyone
noticed
thinks
that too. Yeah.
Seriously.
Of course, Trump's personality disorders may be alarming to some voters, but that's not willing to deter them and make them change their minds, as we can see in this comment by a New Hampshire voter.
I'd rather be with Trump, I guess, just because he's been there and I know he's a big mouth, but it's, I'd rather stick with him.
I know my children sulk whenever they come and visit me and they play with a voodoo doll that looks just like me, and I have horrific pains when they stick a needle in it, but I love them when they come to visit so much.
What is wrong with people? What is wrong with people? Every time you show these clips, Tom, where it's like, yeah, I'm going with him. Why? I know he's got a big mouth and it keeps repeating himself and he's repeating himself and he's repeating himself, but he's a good man. He's a God-fearing man. Come on.
That's a good voice there, Michele. Is that part of
Thank
your
you.
one of your characters?
Oh, I have many characters, Jeff. We don't have enough.
We both live in the same area of the state, and that does sound like an amalgam of our neighbors, to be fair.
I'm making no comment because my neighbors like me so far.
So far.
Okay.
We'll see what happens if Trump does lose, hopefully. They might not like you so much.
Oh.
I'm worried about what. I don't want to get that gets really dark. I won't get into it, but I'm
If
just
they won't,
worried.
Don't
they
get
won't
into
believe, they
that.
won't believe he's lost. That's the problem.
Right. Yeah. I want Trump to lose, but I am worried about what happens after he loses again. And of course, declares victory and claims it was stolen from him. And, the guns come out.
He complained about the election results in an election he won.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
And then he said when I ran against Obama, really? In what space-time continuum portal have we slipped into?
It was that big presidential campaign on Twitter in 2012. That's what he's thinking of. See, I'm trying to sympathize. I'm trying to get in his mindset here. I'm trying to figure out what makes him tick.
Really, this is a person who thought that there was a really good Air Force during the Revolutionary War.
Were you there?
It was in my Call of Duty game. It rocked.
My favorite moment was very early in his presidency where he talked about Frederick Douglass and how he continues to do such important work.
They're BFFs, man.
That was my favorite.
Sure, Nikki Haley's campaign may seem polished and professional when you compare it to that of Donald Trump's, but that doesn't mean it's not without gaffes, as we can see in this exchange with a voter during a town hall in Berlin, New Hampshire.
What was the cause of the United States Civil War?
Well, don't come with an easy question or anything. I mean, I think the cause of the Civil War was basically how government was going to run, the freedoms and what people could and couldn't do. What do you think the cause of the Civil War was? I'm sorry?
I'm not running president. I wanted to see your view on the cause of the Civil War.
I mean, I think it always comes down to the role of government. We need to have capitalism. We need to have economic freedom. We need to make sure that we do all things so that individuals have the liberties so that they can have freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to do or be anything they want to be without government getting in the way.
Thank you. And in the year 2023, it's astonishing to me that you answer that question without mentioning the word slavery.
What do you want me to say about slavery? Next question.
Oh my God.
Last night I was asked,
about the Civil War and what I think of the Civil War, what was the cause of the Civil War. Of course, the Civil War was about slavery. We know that. That's unquestioned, always the case. We know the Civil War was about slavery. But it was also more than that. It was about the freedoms of every individual. It was about the role of government. For 80 years, America had the decision and the moral question of whether slavery was a good thing and whether government, economically, culturally, any other reasons, had a role to play in that.
Well, she did seem to be confused geographically. I don't know if Nikki Haley just forgot that, we're a state, we're part of the union up here. Now, if she were asked that question in her home state, she'd have to give a very nuanced answer, because if you're going to win a Republican primary in the South, you need to be somewhat racist. But in the Northeast, it's okay to be not racist. And we actually do. I've met them. I swear to God, we have non-racist Republicans here, or at least not outwardly, overtly racist Republicans,
What?
I think. So, she could have, given a better answer.
I didn't pull the clip for the show, but I did see something when she ran for governor in 2010. She gave the same kind of mealy mouth answer that went on for a long time.
Jeez, what an idiot.
Well, and the thing is too, with how fast the news cycle happens, if you make a big fat screw up, who advised her to bring it up at the next talk she gave?
I know. Just dig
if
that hole.
She just shut her mouth.
And she said, don't come at it with an easy question. Like, the writers of The Simpsons were able to answer it correctly when the immigration officer says to Apu, and just say slavery. Oh, slavery. Okay, now, congratulations, you're a citizen. There you go. A cartoon character got it right, Nikki. Come on.
I'm so glad you guys noticed.
And don't try to dance around the subject of owning non-white people in a town called Berlin. Don't you get the symbolism of that?
Oh, no.
If you want to know if Nikki Haley's slavery remarks, or a lack of acknowledgement thereof, is enough of an awkward moment in her campaign, there is a possibility that this exchange with a young New Hampshire resident wearing a piece of her campaign merchandise may compete.
Hi, sweet girl. How are you? I love your hat.
Thank you. One of your guys gave it to me for free.
You can tell me which guy that was, but we don't do things for free.
I see him right now. He's really hiding.
I'm glad she doesn't see him right now, because he's currently tied up in the trunk of my car right now.
Little girl, I want to take away your freedom to choose control over your own body, but I'll say it in a high voice and sound cute while I say it. Ha ha ha.
I love when Jeff gets disgusted.
It's not just Donald Trump trying to throw Nikki Haley's campaign off the tracks, but his surrogates doing so as well, as we can hear in this rant from Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene.
These are fake numbers. Nikki Haley does not have this much support. She's going to come out and claim that she's rising in the polls. All these fake news media people up here on this platform are going to claim that Nikki Haley is rising in the polls. It's a total, complete lie. Absolute lie. Tonight, Nikki Haley was defeated. The problem is she's going to be dumb enough, and she's going to be a fake candidate, and she's going to keep going, and we're going to destroy her in South Carolina. It's going to be a complete humiliation. I can't wait to see it happen.
Those reporters look like they want to bolt. And what's going to happen next is they're going to get to their car, start it up, and it won't turn over, and they'll be stuck. And it'll just be Marjorie Taylor Greene lumbering toward them, ranting about fake numbers. And they'll just think, God, kill me now.
What? I think if I were in that situation and that happened to me, I would assume at that point that I was already dead and this was hell.
It's like I said before, Matt, we are in hell.
Yeah, we might all be in hell. Yeah, already. Yeah.
Well, what was interesting to me there was her use of the word destroy. I wasn't sure she meant figuratively or literally.
At least Nikki Haley wasn't the total long shot in this race. CNN decided to tease this clip of Democratic Minnesota Congressman Dean Phillips trying to make his voice heard during that state's of no consequence Democratic primary.
Most of the people in the country are going to the Trump rally right now because he's listening to them. No one's asking about this stuff. I'm just frustrated. I hope you understand why I'm getting tired of it. You're doing your jobs, but you're not asking the questions that Americans give a shit about.
Fired up.
I'm not even impressed that Dean Phillips managed to throw 2 CNN anchors off their game and derailed them, because now with CNN, that's not difficult to do.
This has nothing to do with politics, but all I could think of when he said that and they were like, all bug-eyed, was the South Park. They're going to say shit on television. They're going to say shit on television.
Although for the one to say fired up, that was a little bit of an overstatement. He didn't seem particularly fired up. He just slipped in Dean Phillips, I don't think I've seen him actually fired up. Have you?
He's fired up for a Minnesotan, to be fair.
Have you seen him?
Okay. Fair enough, yeah.
Now, Matt was impressive because Matt said, I've never seen Dean Phillips fired up. That means you've seen him.
Well, he's got
Jeff comes back.
he had his campaign headquarters right in downtown Manchester. I would see it every time I was downtown. Never really noticed a lot of looking in the windows, didn't see a lot going on there, but
he had the coffee morning, I think, in Iowa or it was someplace like that where nobody showed up. Was that Iowa or New Hampshire?
Oh no, that happened here. Yes, I remember that. That happened here. Yeah. That was embarrassing. Poor guy.
Yes, I got one person to show up. Hi, I'm from ipmNation.com, and I was wondering if it...
I should have gone. I probably could have asked him a question. Because apparently nobody else was there. You take what you can get, right?
Made him feel like a real candidate.
Now you don't have to peek in windows,
That's right. Well, I'm used to that.
And on that note, that's our show. I want to thank Jeff Hysen, Michele Wojciechowski, Polite Kitty, and Matt Connarton.
Woo!
Thank you for having me. This has been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this.
But before we go, my final thought. With its long-standing first-in-the-nation voting status every election, will there be a chance that the message that New Hampshire voters send helps stop Trump's momentum along the Republican electorate? My complex and well-thought-out answer goes like this. No. What are you looking for? A message that starts out with a lot of hope but then ends in a soul-crushing journey through the potential minefields that could bring about an authoritarian rule come November? Relax. There's plenty of episodes left this season and plenty of chances for me to do that in future episodes as this campaign season progresses. Good night. This episode was written and hosted by Tom Myers with panelists Jeff Hysen, Michele Wojciechowski, and Polite Kitty, and guest Matt Connarton. Theme music composed and arranged by Jeroen van den Hurck. Executive producers Tom Myers, Matt Connarton for ipmNation, and Eddie Carson for Odyssey Radio. Please leave a 5-star rating and a positive review on Apple Podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast's Patreon for early access to episodes, ad-free episodes, extended episodes, bonus clips, and more. Thank you for listening, and please visit tommyers.us.